Your Honor, we are here today on the case of the State versus Richard Alec Murdaugh. He has been indicted by the Colleton County Grand Jury on July 14th, 2022 for 4 charges. Those charges are 2022 GS 15-592. That charge is for the murder of Maggie Murdaugh. 2022 GS 15-593. That is for the murder of Paul Murdaugh. 2022 GS 15-594. That is possession of a firearm during commission of a violent crime for the murder of Maggie Murdaugh with a rifle. And 2022 GS 15-595. That is possession of a firearm during commission of a violent crime for the murder of Paul Murdaugh with a shotgun.
Are they breathing?
No, ma'am. My wife and my son.
And what is your name?
My name is Alec Murdaugh. Please hurry. Neither one of them's moving.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Crime Room Podcast, a true crime podcast about how homicide detectives catch bad guys. I'm Jolene Grace.
And I'm Branden.
Episode 2 of our Alex Murdaugh Saga series picks up where we left off last week. If you haven't listened to episode 1, you can on our website, thecrimeroom.com, or anywhere else where you get your podcast from. If you like our podcast and would like to support us, please rate us and leave a review. A quick recap before we go ahead with tonight's show. Gloria Satterfield was Alex Murdaugh's housekeeper for over 20 years. In 2018, she had an alleged accident at the compound. According to the 911 tapes, Gloria tripped on the stairs, fell, hit her head, and died at the hospital several weeks later. Accidents happen, right? Not so fast. Her death was listed as died of natural causes. On our show, we ask, how can you die of natural causes after a head injury? We can't be the only one wondering about that. A few months ago, South Carolina officials exhumed Gloria's body and are finally performing a long overdue autopsy. Tonight, we're back to the warm shores of South Carolina, friendly towns full of charm and secrets. Nearby Hampton knows all too painfully well about one prominent family's secrets, and how could they not? The Murdaughs have ruled this part of the state with great power over the judicial system. Power, money, greed. What could go wrong? Everything. Just ask Alec Murdaugh, a man with a beautiful family, a wonderful wife, and 2 boys, set to follow in their father's footsteps, or so it seemed.
And soon after the Gloria Satterfield incident, the Murdaughs once again find themselves in murky waters.
It seems like bodies just follow them around.
Right. And this next incident was in 2019, February 24th, where Paul Murdaugh was operating a boat and he crashed into a bridge near Paris Island in South Carolina.
So for our listeners, we should clarify that Paul is the younger son of Alec Murdaugh.
Alec and Maggie, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in that crash, there were 6 people on board, and there was one individual who was found deceased, and that was Mallory Beach. So Paul and his friends were allegedly provided alcohol by Alec, in which they took it onto the boat and went for a joyride, or whatever they wanted to do. But after this crash, the officials went and spoke with him. They did not give him a DUI test, roadside assessments, or standardized field assessments. That means when law officials were speaking with him, they did not initiate field sobriety testing to determine if he was capable or proper to operate the boat. They did, however, obtain his blood alcohol content, which was a .286.
What does that mean? They had to have transported him to the hospital where he gave blood?
So either gave blood or blew on a breathalyzer, either a portable or one at the station, which has better accuracy. But let's go into context of what that is. That might just be a number to some and not that important or means nothing to them. Let's just go through the stages of the average individual who drinks and not I'll call them a professional who drink every day. The average person who reach .2, they start throwing up, they're all over the place, they need help walking. Right? But once you hit the .25 area, that's when you can what's called black out. You don't remember what happened the night before. You really lack the ability to protect yourself or care for yourself. And a .4 is the area in which you can die or you may result in a coma. That's when you may have your stomach pumped. But he was a .28.
And he's only 19.
He's only 19, so he can't have a history of drinking, a long history of drinking. In various states, the legal limit to operate a boat and/or vehicle is .08. So Paul's BAC level was almost 4 times that limit.
That was a lot of alcohol on that boat.
Absolutely, yes.
It's worth pointing out that he was the trouble child. He was in that part of the state. Paul had a reputation of being rowdy and partying hard and drinking a lot. There were speculations, eyewitness accounts, even of him taking drugs and whatnot. That night was very dark, zero visibility, and I think they did a turn or whatnot, and the boat flipped, and the girl drowned.
Yeah, that's awful, to drown in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
So after he was arrested, he was indicted, and his charges were OUI on a boat, operating under the influence, causing great bodily harm and death connected to a crash. And Paul was he pleaded not guilty. The judge actually denies the request that Paul be alcohol monitored, which is almost a mandatory in this situation. He has a problem with drinking and drug use, and he actually ends up killing somebody. Whether that's a manslaughter charge or neglect, a alcohol monitor is almost mandatory. What's your thoughts on that?
So what I find interesting is that Alec Murdaugh is the first in his family. He is not the 14th Circuit solicitor. But the new guy that they elect, Stone, he has a personal relationship with the Murdaugh law firm. And when Paul is going through his criminal procedures, Stone recuses himself. I find it interesting because no matter what, it seems like the Murdaugh family has their fingers in the cookie jar.
Yeah, they're just everywhere in the legal
field.
Yeah, they're just everywhere. So let's get into what kind of brought Alec Murdaugh into the spotlight. And that was on June 7th, 2021. That's when Alec calls 911 and he reports that he found his 52-year-old wife, Maggie, and his son, Paul, who was shot dead outside their
Are they
home.
breathing?
No, ma'am. My wife and my son.
And what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh. Please hurry. Neither one of them's moving.
Alright, so Alex calls 911. He sounds very distraught. You can hear him crying. When officers show up on scene, he gives them a story. They don't automatically believe. So he tells police officers that he had come home, he discovered his wife and son dead, or shot to death, that he hasn't spoken to them in a few hours, has no idea what has happened or who could have killed him.
So he's playing the card of, I don't know, I was doing something else, and I came home and this happened.
Right. It sounds that way. Or that's the statement he's giving to the police.
Right. And then on June 17th, this is 10 days after the death of his wife and his son, his brothers actually go on Good Morning America, and they state that they do not believe Alec was involved.
Right. They're being supportive, lending their brother a hand, and offer more or less they vouch for him.
Right. And personally, I don't think I would enjoy one of my family members going on to the news about this incident. I'd rather keep it private.
Well, they have to do some damage control, I think. Part of, to show united front, but at the same time, they have now, their reputation is on the line.
That's true.
Things are starting to really boil over, and you have one accident, Gloria, then you have Mallory, another accident. Then you have all the rumors about Paul and his drinking and criminal things that he has possibly done that were overlooked, and he just got away with things. And so a story of Alec Murdaugh and his character begins to emerge that is casting a shadow over the law firm, the dynasty. So in a way, I do see how they will try to get in front of the cameras, go on the biggest show in America and say, oh, he's a good guy. Of course he didn't do it. He was a loving father and a husband. But what they're failing to disclose is Maggie Murdaugh had started to think about filing for a divorce from Alec. And why is that? The story that we now know is some checks that she had written to go to charities have bounced back. And she had gone to her husband and had confronted him about it and said, where the money? You're embarrassing me in town, in society. And Alec has given her a story that she did not believe, so much so that she hired a forensic accountant to go through the family finances.
And just on the outlook of it, just from the outside, it appears that Alec would handle all the finances. Maggie was just told, hey, we have this much money, or sure, donate this money to this charity. And
well, the accountant discovers that they're practically broke.
Right, yeah, she hires the forensic accountant to do the dirty work. This accountant said, hey, yeah, no, things aren't looking right. It's not looking good for you guys.
So she confronts him, the husband, and then they find her dead. It definitely raises an eyebrow.
It absolutely raises an eyebrow. Rightfully
Does that
so.
As a police officer, is that a good enough motive to kill somebody?
Your significant other using all the money and not telling you.
Confronting you, telling you that you're being divorced.
Yeah, so I believe that Alec has, just like his brothers have a reputation. He's known as a Murdaugh. They are powerful. They have money. They can do what they please. And if his wife were to divorce him and or give out all of their secrets, then I do feel as though it was a powerful enough reason or a good enough motive to kill her. I also believe that Maggie may have knew some other information between Mallory Beach and Gloria Satterfield, as well as somebody who we'll talk about towards the end of the podcast, a Stephen Smith, which is a case another body, which happened in 2015. Yeah, so I believe she may have had more information. I do believe that the money situation and the saving face situation would be enough for Alec to go ahead with the homicide, but I do believe there was other information that Maggie and his son had that he wanted to hide from the world.
It's a double homicide. Your
own wife and your own kid. So June 25th, Alec and his other son Buster, they announced a $100,000 reward for information on the killings. Alec is allegedly worth millions of dollars, right? And I do believe the $100,000 number it was too low. It was a number that he put that he didn't actually want people coming in with information because he was connected. He wanted to put out a high enough number where it looks good to the average resident, but not too high where someone's like, all right, I'm going to go dig and I'm going to find this money.
Okay, so he is trying to do the right thing, play for the cameras that he is this grief-stricken husband, having his elder son be on it. And by the way, we need to point out that Buster is really the victim in this.
And I don't believe he's involved from what we know.
The murders.
The murders, yeah. Maggie and his brother. He lost a father, a mother, and his only brother. He lost everybody. His father will hopefully go to jail if he's convicted, and his mother and his brother passed away. And he's left with no money. The legacy is essentially it stops with him. So only a week later, something interesting happens with Alec. So
It seems like he's on a roll. He can't stop himself.
no, he can't. He does.
His name is in the press 24/7. He has captured the attention of an entire nation. And he cannot stop himself.
No, he can't. I think he knew he was too far gone.
I think this is a classic case of stupid criminal.
That could be it as well.
Just tell us what he did.
Well, I believe he knew he was too far gone because on September 4th, he calls 911 and reports that he was shot.
Again calls 911.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
On Salcahatchee Road.
Okay, what's the address on Salcahatchee Road?
I'm by the church.
What church? What church are you talking about?
I don't know the name of it with the red roof.
Okay, what end of Salcahatchee Road? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
At the Hampton County side.
Okay, what's going on?
I got a flat tire,
Mm-hmm.
and I stopped, and somebody stopped to help me. And when I turned my back, they tried to shoot me.
Oh, okay. Were you shot?
Yes, but
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay.
You shot where? Where were you shot at?
Huh?
Did they actually shoot you or they tried to shoot you?
They shot me, but
Okay, wait, you need EMS?
well, I mean, yes, I can't drive.
Okay.
I'm trouble seeing, and I'm bleeding a lot.
Where part of your body?
I'm not sure. Somewhere on my head.
Your head?
Somewhere on my
Alec calls 911 and reports that he was shot on a road in Hampton County. From there, he was taken to a hospital in Savannah, Georgia, and he was treated for superficial gunshot to the head.
Superficial gunshot to the head.
Right, so something where it's not life-threatening, and superficial means it probably didn't damage his bones or anything like that, more of like a skin laceration is what I...
Well, I would assume so if you're able to make a 911 call.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't anything that left any permanent damage. On the tape, you can clearly hear how upset he is, emotional. Somebody had allegedly tried to shoot him, and he is requesting help.
And clearly it was superficial because on September 6th, through his attorney, he released a statement that he was resigning from the law firm in which his dynasty is, his legacy, his great-great-grandfather started, and he stated that he will be entering rehab for his opioid addiction.
An opioid addiction. Seems like this Alec Murdaugh is like layer upon layer of garbage.
Yeah, just it keeps.
Just when you think that you have nailed it, you understand it, you can wrap your mind around it, and you're ready to move on, there's another Alec Murdaugh story. And it's just as wild as the first one, and you're like, what is going on?
Right, yeah.
Who is this guy? And the more you hear about him, the more you think, how did he get away with it?
And how did he
For
get...
so because he wasn't terribly smart about his crimes.
It doesn't appear so. And how did he get so many people to work with him, to be his accomplice? Especially in all the fraud and...
Well, I can see that accomplice. I mean, you know, he is powerful, you know, he has big money, he probably can blackmail you.
I'm sure blackmailing was
a big part of it.
Was his MO when it came to doing...
Somebody else doing his dirty bidding.
Yes. So the next day, so September 6th, he released a statement through his attorney that he was resigning. However, the next day on the 7th, the law firm said, no, that, you know, we discovered that he was using funds in the wrong way. He was taking it. And he violated our policies, and we were going to start a formal investigation to him. And
what a flip of the script.
Yeah, he was trying to get ahead of it with this whole opiate thing. But
oh, forget about that.
There's bodies everywhere. I think that's the least of his problems.
Now the brothers are coming and saying, he stole from us. We are the true victims of this.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you mentioned earlier, just saving their reputation by going on Good Morning America. They wanted the world to know, or their potential clients, that they were perfect, they were good at what they did, and they didn't have all this dirty laundry in the bag.
There's no salvaging this. At this point, the brothers and Buster need to enter WITSAC and relocate new identities, new names, cut all ties to South Carolina. The state is not big enough for the mess that Alec Murdaugh created. Continuing
on to the incident where he was allegedly shot in the head. On September 10th, a family member of his, not him, spoke with the press, and they said, quote unquote, after the shooting, Alex had an entry and exit wound. His skull was fractured, and it was not a self-inflicted bullet wound. So it was a little strange that they mentioned specifically it was not a self-inflicted bullet wound, because the 911 tape says, or shows that Alex saying that somebody tried to kill him. So they're mentioning something very specific. I don't know if there are rumors going around that he tried to end his own life because of what happened, but I find that particular sentence very off. Then they then go on to say, Alec pulled over after seeing a low tire indicator light. A male driver in a blue pickup asked him if he had car troubles. As soon as Alex replied, he was shot. I believe that...
Even the story is not...
Yeah, it doesn't...
over the top. I mean, I think if you're this huge, bigger-than-life character with bodies buried everywhere and crimes, financial crimes that are worthy of a reality show, that you would make up a better story than a guy in a blue pickup truck that pulls over next to you, seeing you having a car trouble, and you say, yes, please help me, and then you're like, pop, pop, pop.
I agree, and I also believe that the family members given this statement because Alec doesn't want to tie himself into a story with law enforcement. So if a week later something contradicts that story...
Well, I don't think he can keep up his story straight. He's given quite a few statements to the police at this point in only a few short years.
I agree. There's a lot of lies going on.
It's probably hard for him to keep it straight.
Yeah, he clearly had money for a good attorney. Well, maybe he wasn't so good, or maybe he didn't take his advice, but they would advise him properly of what to do and how to do it, and maybe this time he actually took their advice.
As a police officer, if you respond to a call where the wound is superficial, what would be some of the first things that you will start looking to investigate?
Well, I would have him point out the tire that was low, because maybe he didn't think that through. Maybe it was on the passenger side or the rear passenger or the driver's side.
So right off the bat, you will start to try to pick off the lies from the truth.
The first thing, well, the inherently reliable is the first thing. I get there, they tell me something. Unless I know them, which I may or may not, I believe it's true. So what I do is I try to reenact the scene to the best of our ability. I would have them go to the area. You were right here, you turned this way, you did what? He shot you with what hand? What did he do? What was he driving? And from these questions, you'll get a lot of indicators that show deceptive behaviors or lies where they start hesitating. They're not really coming out with answers that make sense. Like they might say like a blue truck went that way, and then the next it's like a black sedan, or these little details that you can't plan for because you can't know what every officer is going to ask you.
Okay.
Really start to come out. So, since it was a gunshot wound, I wouldn't really have too much time to speak with him as we were waiting for the ambulance, the paramedics to arrive. However, within that time, it's usually a great time frame where you can gauge whether you believe them or not. And in this situation, it does appear that he was or would have been shot by somebody else, because what we find out later is that he actually hired somebody.
Don't give away the goods yet.
So, all indications in this instance would lead to, potentially some random guy did show up and just shot him for no good reasons, which is very unlikely. And then after he was...
Would you figure out if something was taken? Because I feel like if you are about to shoot somebody, a random person, it will be because you need money, because you were hired by somebody to do so, or it was a personal vendetta.
Yeah, so hired killings like that, for money-wise, you're not going to go to someone's car. They don't have that much valuables in there. So you're not going to drive by. Well, it's very unlikely you'll drive by, shoot them, then go through their car to see what they have, because that takes time. Police are responding. And by the time you grab, a couple of dollars, you're gone. Typically. Would
the time of day or night that the accident happened be factored in? Because this happened early on Saturday morning. If I were a police officer, I would be like, what are you doing at this hour out on the road?
Yeah, so the first thing you would think is something suspicious about this. It's not making sense, unless the individual can give you a good story or a good reason why they were out. But going back to your original question here about hired killing, I do believe in this situation it's more likely that a hired killing for a vendetta or something gang-related would happen.
Okay.
As opposed to killing them and taking their valuables, because more likely than not, the car is going to be more valuable than anything else. So on September 14th, court documents revealed that Alec actually arranged a former client to which he has a criminal history with, that we later find out about, to kill him so that his surviving son Buster could collect on the life insurance payout of approximately $10 million.
All right, so here is where the unraveling is really starting.
I think it more than start. I think it's...
The wrinkles are coming apart.
Yes.
We already know that Alec has connection to the underworld. He has people that their moral compass is misplaced, misguided, and broken.
They don't have one at all.
So he is hiring this Curtis Smith to kill him, so Buster can collect $10 million in life insurance.
Right.
This whole thing rings a similarity to another accident that happened to someone that Alex Murdaugh knows.
Yeah, his housekeeper.
Gloria Satterfield. Tripping, falling, hitting her head, never regains consciousness, and dies a few weeks later.
I would really like to be in that hospital because, speaking to Gloria, because I wonder if she was coherent, if she knew what was going on.
I think she just said what she believed, and that was, I don't know what happened to me, because with head injuries, you will forget. You will have memory lapse.
Right.
I think she really didn't know and died not knowing that she was murdered.
Right.
Possibly murdered.
Right.
Allegedly. That's important.
Yes, at this time of this podcast, it's still allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
And going into the official charges for Curtis, he was charged with assisted suicide, assault and battery of an aggravated nature, pointing and presenting a firearm, so insurance fraud and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. So this is going back to his previous dealings with Alec, where Smith and Alec were involved in approximately 437 fraudulent checks, totaling approximately $2.4 million between the years of 2013 and 2021. And as you were mentioning, Gloria Satterfield, you weren't the only one with that conclusion about a similar circumstance. September 15th, the case of Gloria Satterfield was actually reopened again.
The coroner testifies that his office should have never put natural causes on Gloria's death certificate, which is what we have been saying.
You don't even have to be in the legal field to know that makes no sense.
Natural causes. She didn't die of natural causes. Yes, she died of hand injury, and I think we are going to find out soon enough how she got the head injury. He could have, Alec Murdaugh, he could have killed her, or she could have genuinely had an accident and Alec Murdaugh saw an in to get more money, which he did, over $4 million. He didn't give a dime to Gloria's sons. That's a possibility.
So let's go back a little bit to potentially the first scandal that happened with the Murdaugh. And that goes back to Stephen Smith, who I mentioned earlier. In 2015, Stephen was operating a motor vehicle. Allegedly, he was struck by another vehicle in a hit-and-run accident where he was found deceased. He had deep gashes and blunt force trauma to his head. His mother actually believed he was murdered because of his sexual orientation, and there were rumors of Smith, who was classmates of Buster, having a relationship other than friends.
With Buster?
With Buster. So Buster was actually...
So Buster is the older son.
Yes. So Buster was interviewed and questioned by police. They clearly believed that somehow he was involved. And there were rumors within the community that hinted toward a cover-up of the Murdaugh family because of his position and his power.
Well, it's still ongoing investigation. It is currently classified as a cold case.
Yes, it is.
But it is interesting that there is another body attached yet again to the Murdaugh Dynasty.
Right, and this is, as far as we know, the first one. The first case. And going back to the 14th Circuit, Isaac Stone recused himself because he was friends of Alec and knew his son. 2015 is when it actually all started, and 2015 was Stephen, 2018 was Gloria,
2019 was Mallory,
2021 was Maggie,
and Paul,
2021 was almost Alec being shot for assisted suicide, and between 2013 and 2021, there was vast accounts of fraud,
Financial fraud.
between clients and Alec.
He embezzled his money from clients.
Right, so let's get into a couple cases there to show you how significant it was and what he would do. It's almost the same MO of what he did to Gloria Setterfield's children. A Blondell Gray was killed in an ambulance crash in 2012. The family accused Alex of not paying them upwards of $112,000. A Sandra Taylor was killed by a drunk driver in 2019. The settlement was of $180,000, but they stated that Alex told them the settlement was only $30,000.
So what all these examples show is that Alec Murdaugh did not care how crippled you are, did not care about the grief of your family. He was an ambulance chaser, and he was very good at what he did. He'll swindle you out of a lot of money. And you most likely end up with close to nothing. And his victims are now realizing how deep his crimes run. Could this soft-spoken, well-articulate guy everyone around Hampton knew and trusted turn out to be a conniving serial killer? Alec Murdaugh has denied killing his wife and son, but as they say, the proof is in the pudding. What we know for certain is that the saga of Alec Murdaugh is not over yet. Till the next time, thanks for listening to the Crime Room Podcast.